Hey guys, I had a spectacular week. The 1K account challenge, the first 2 weeks of that started off pretty rough. It started with $1,000 and it dropped down to about 842. But this last 4 days, I made 78.92% profit, which is sick. I'm not going to complain whatsoever about that. I think it ended up being $665 of cumulative profit, which is 78.92% over the last 5 trading days. We didn't have a Monday, so obviously that would be 4 trading days. And I'm going to show you guys all this right now just so you can take a peek at it. This is my all-time P&L, so you're just going to see all the list of stocks that I made money on over the long run. But I made $665, 78.92% P&L. You can see that over here as well. And I did that primarily trading 3 tickers. Yeah, it was really 3 big tickers. Obviously, I had other things in the midst of that I made profit on, some small 5-10% gains, also some small 5-10% losses. But I want to highlight the couple of really big winners that I had, so that hopefully that's something that you can pull value from. I don't know if you will or not, but I'm going to share my journey along the way. And this was a big week for me. It was the week where I really finally made a step forward on this 1K account. It's sitting at $1,507.77 right now. And I'd like to continue that into next week. So let's just get started. We're going to start off with Tuesday, what I ended up making some good money on. Now, Tuesday on Tesla was a gap up, and it was a big gap up out of what looks like a bull flag on the daily time frame. You can see this really nice consolidation, pullback of candles. The volume dried up as it was pulling off, and you got an increase in volume on a gap up. And on the gap up, it just went. And I noticed that, and I thought that was really important. Now, I'm not going to chase a gap up kind of move, but I did want to play some sort of flag if there was an opportunity to play it. And I could have played this one, but I didn't, unfortunately. I did, however, play the second one, and the second one was a really nice bagger for me that I ended up sizing into pretty nicely, and I got to ride all the way up here. And I had a level picked out that I was going to be watching and paying attention to heading into the day, and that was 360.34. It was just a big daily SR flip, support resistance flip that I thought was pretty important. I was lucky to just happen to pop above that, but the trade thesis was essentially as follows. As long as we remain in this bull flag, you don't invalidate the flag, I'll stay in, and I'm going to target this resistance level. And that's a 3-to-1 risk-to-reward ratio. And I ended up staying in this basically until we popped underneath the 9 EMA, which turned this into a 5-to-1. I mean, it was just a nice trade, one that I sized up into nicely. And I think that particular day, I had ended up making $115. So that was a good start, $115 day or so. The day after that, where I really made the majority of my money, was on Unity stock. And I actually double dipped, and I played this twice in the week. But this first time that I played it was back here. And this is just on what looks like a really clear breakout kind of candle. If you were looking at this on the daily time frame, that would have been this candle right here. And you ended up getting just a high volume push. And I thought that was really interesting, especially in comparison to the previous day's trading that we'd had. You really didn't get a whole lot of activity. And there's a nice amount of call option flow. And I want to give props where props is due. I didn't find this play on my own. I pay very close attention to the Bronx Viking on Twitter because he is one of the very few people that I think actually shares important information about flow, which is just options tape, big buyers or sellers that are trading options on a day-to-day basis. And he shared really interesting flow on Unity, and I thought that, hey, this is leading the market literally in call premium today. I'm going to give it a stab. And I played this flag breakout, and I was lucky enough to have actually caught the beginning of the flag breakout right here. And I know I didn't size into this super heavy. I think it was like $100 trade or so. And I got to just ride the 9 EMA the entire day up. And I know that my last contract was somewhere in between like 200 and 300%, but I took profits along the way on 5 different contracts. And that was a nice trade for me. And yeah, I guess that really summarizes the nice one that I took on Tuesday. But on Wednesday, I think this is Wednesday. Yeah. On Wednesday, my big home run slammer was NPWR, which is also a flow call out. I'm not going to say that I found this by any sort of particular technical level. You know, I saw there was a big flow spot on it, and then I looked at it intraday, and I said, okay, what does this look like? And I saw the flow pop up right as this candle was starting to form right here. And I said, all right, we've been dry in volume the entire day. You got a little pop in volume on a nice spread candle. What I mean by that is the spread increase on increased volume, which is always a green flag to me. That's a good sign. And it held it. It held that on lower volume. And I wouldn't quite call this a flag. It's like a low volume float up, but you did see volume pick up on this candle. And I saw that and I said, All right, flow's picking up. The chart's starting to heat up a little bit. I'm going to grab these. And I remember I grabbed them and I had to have been up 100% within 5 minutes. I mean, it really just took nothing. I held this and bam, 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 bam. It pops up. It pops up. I don't think I caught quite the top here. I think I ended up getting stopped out on this candle right here. But this was another slam dunk, easy over 100% trade that I really didn't have to think that hard about. And if I'm to come back to my account right here, $115 of profit popped into $245 of profit on the 28th. That was that was a pretty nice little trade. And then the 29th, which is this day, we went from 245 up to 506. So I remember this day specifically was over $200 in profit, which I am ecstatic about. I mean, that's sick. What's not to be happy about it? One thing that was really important to me this week as I was taking my trades and I was being successful is making sure that I do not size up. In fact, I did the opposite. I sized down on most of my trades today. I think I still have a good amount of funds left that I could have traded with. Let me see. $881, and I have a $1,500 cash balance. So I only traded with half my funds today for what that's worth. And all my trades were only between like $50 and $100 on the day. And this is something that I carried into yesterday as well. Hey, I made a lot of money this last week. Let's not give that money back. I did end up overnighting 2 contracts, and we did get a gap down at the open, but I held them just to see what happens. And I remember those runners I was holding for 70% into the close yesterday, and I ended up closing out of one of them at like 170%, and I think the other at about 90 after this sell-off right here. I didn't hold it all the way down. I got out of my last runner once we broke through this little flat top area right here. That leads me into today, where we took some nice trades. Was first off Unity, and this one I got out of it a little bit early. I'm kind of bummed. I took this pretty close off the open. I saw this nice push up and what looked like it was going to be a hold of the gap. I got in on this green candle right here, and I ended up holding it. And my thesis was, as long as we don't break beneath this gap aggressively, I'm going to hold my calls, which would be this. You're looking at, I entered here. As long as we hold the gap, I stay in. I'm targeting the top of supply. There was a 6-to-1 risk-to-reward ratio, and I got out fucking early, and I shouldn't have. This is actually a regret for me, is that I took my profit on this candle right here. This is where I got out specifically, was that green candle. I wish that I didn't, because I had no reason to. If I just stuck to my strategy, which I've used many, many times in the past, of ride the 9, don't think too hard. If it's above the 9 MA, just keep holding your shit. I could have capitalized on what ended up being like a 400% trade. I mean, I got out at 100%, so I'm not going to complain about that. But if you can make more money and there's a way to do it, you should try to do it, And I think the reason I got out is when I'm streaming, I don't like the idea of giving back profit. And if there's people that are tailing my trades, them ended up, taking an L on something that would have been a W just because I decided to hold on to it a little bit longer. So that certainly influenced my decision-making a little bit. But I'm not too mad at how that ended up panning out. And then I took a second major trade today, which was Tesla puts. And I actually ended up trading TSLL, but I'm just going to show you Tesla so you can understand it easily. TSLL is just the 2X Tesla bull ETF, essentially. But I traded Tesla on this little breakdown right here. I was looking at, all right, you've got this sort of rounding top look, you're range trading right now, and you broke beneath this little flag, like bear flag look at 360, and I saw it was on increased volume, and I thought, okay, this is something worth paying attention to. Volume dried up a little bit, and I got in on this candle right here because I saw a volume pop up on this one, and it looked like it was going to break, and it did, and I was actually a little bit nervous immediately because I saw volume pop down, it dropped off, but then this candle settled my fears. I was like, all right, I don't really have to worry that much, and these were daily expirations. I thought, well, if we're going to get a pop down, it's going to be an aggressive one. I mean, we haven't had bears in control whatsoever. I sized really small. I think this is like a $50 trade overall. And I think that it ran as much as 500% at the bottom down here on my TSLL cons. I think I got out of my last one for like 360, but that was another type of slam dunk trade that ended up making the day. I mean, it was a $158 green day, 11.76%. And part of that, I have to be honest, is because I took 2 contracts of TSLL right here. I mean, not right here. It was somewhere in the midst of all this. It was a couple dollars, essentially. I paid like $5 for a couple contracts, and we got this huge hammer down candle, and I sold them literally just, it popped down, and I said, all right, I'm getting out of this for a little profit. But that was it. I mean, that was really the day. And if there's some takeaways from this, I would say compared to the last couple of weeks that I'd been trading, It's that I've settled in a little bit more. And what I mean by that is I've been watching charts consistently, having people watch me watch charts consistently for a couple weeks now. That definitely influences things. I've had more stabs, more live time watching markets, not necessarily all day, but a good chunk of the day. And I've started to incorporate watching flow a little bit more closely. Now, I don't pay for unusual whales myself, but as I've said before, the Bronx Viking on Twitter is a great guy to pay attention to if you want to get actual real time, useful flow callouts that can help you in some way, shape, or form. And I pay attention to the things he has to say because he usually doesn't miss. I mean, NPWR, that play that made me some really good money, like 100% in minutes, was a flow call out. He said, hey, this is a really unusual flow thing. This is an energy stock that never sees options activity and all of a sudden got thousands of calls of options activity. I'm going to play this. And I took it and bam, it just ran. And it really is just a repeat of what the energy sector has been, which is, hey, the energy sector is running. There's some opportunity there. And he saw the flow and I said, all right, let's play it. Unity, same thing. I mean, flow was spectacular. The day that it ripped up like 12% back here, led the market in call premium. I don't think it's a coincidence that it also had a freaking 12% day back then. And today was a 9% day, and it was up as much as like 15 or 16%. And that was a flow thing, which is also big. I would say the last thing that I've really tuned in on and tried to focus on is actually slightly sizing down on my trades so that I can allow myself to have deeper stop losses. And what I mean by that is if I went into a trade with $200 and I'm trading a stop of like, hey, let's play this flag right here, but I've got $200 in the trade. If I played $200 on this instead of what I actually did, which I think was like literally $50, I probably would have stopped out right here. I don't think I would have held the second that I saw this 5-minute candle close beneath the gap. But what I thought in my head is, well, I've seen many times where you get this like pops just beneath the gap so that people, hit their stops and they get out and then you rock it back up. So I'm actually going to hold this. And the volume wasn't insane to me. I mean, volume was dropping off as it was selling off. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to hold this. But if I had $200 on the line, I think I was down like 15 or 20% on this at the time because, I mean, maybe even more, maybe 30, because these were daily expirations. And being down 30% of $200, I'm going to say, fuck no, dude, I'm getting out of this. So sizing down has actually been really big for me. I've sized down pretty much every single day this week except for Tuesday. Tuesday was the only day that I think I sized super heavy. And the rest of the days, I was like, I made some money, let's keep it. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that I sized down and I had more success. I think it eases up the psychological piece of things where you're really worried about what if I lose, what if I lose, what if I lose, what if I lose? Because I really wasn't worried about what if I lose. I thought, okay, well, if I lose, I get back 20, $30, I find the next one. But if I win, just like we did today on Tesla and Unity, I'm locking in freaking 80%, 100%, 120%. Not every trade is going to be a slam dunk like that, obviously, but it's the market we're in, man. You're seeing some big moves, especially in small cap companies like Unity and BBAI and NPWR and some of these different energy stocks. And I think it's something I'm going to be paying attention to coming into next week. But yeah, I just wanted to share the trades that really made me some decent money. They're really simple setups. I like playing flags. Flags make a lot of sense to me. I'm going to start following flow a little more closely than I have before, and I'm going to try to carry that into next week. My number one priority going into next week is do not get cocky. It is very easy to get humbled in the market, and I do not want to give back this money that I made. The account is up officially now $507, 50%, which is stick. I mean, I'm ecstatic. That's cool as shit. So I got to protect that. I got to protect that money, and I'm not going to size up just because there's more money in my account. I'm going to continue to trade the way that I should trade until this euphoria sort of excitement goes away and I can come a little more even keel, and then I'll reevaluate. I'll go by percentages and say, what am I actually comfortable losing on this trade? And then I'll size accordingly. So that's all I got. You guys take it easy. Catch you next one. Peace.